maybe 3 hours, just depending on your situation. So just depends, you know, how much extra stuff you have to do to get ready. To get ready, it's going to depend a little bit on your garage. If your garage is finished, or whatever you're putting this opener in, if it's got a finished ceiling, then you know, you need to get some blocking up on the ceiling in order to mount the garage opener to, or at the very least you need to be able to get it screwed into the rafters above. In our case, the ceiling's right open here, so we're putting blocking up in between the existing framing that's there, so that's what we're attaching to. Other things to get ready, obviously you're going to need a plug-in up within a couple feet or less of the general area that the opener is going to be in. And when you buy the garage door opener, it's not going to come with the plate that goes on the door. That's this piece right here that you see. So you need to buy an operator plate to fit the door you have. So that's one extra thing you're going to need. In our case, we've got non-standard height doors here. These are 8-foot doors. So most residential doors are only 7 feet, and that's what any opener I've ever seen, that's what they come standardly ready for, is 7-foot doors. But most of them you can buy an extension kit for it. So in our case, our door is a foot higher, so we needed the extension kit that we bought separately. And really all it does is that this main pole up here is put together in sections, and the extension kit just replaces the last section here with a longer piece, plus it gives you a belt that's longer. If you have a chain drive, it's going to give you a longer chain drive. So just a bit of a change up. It's just a matter of tossing to the side a couple of parts and subbing in a couple other longer parts, so not a big deal. So the door we're going to work on is right here. You might have watched our video on installing overhead doors and watched us do that. Now it's time to put the opener on. Well, the first thing I want to do is I want to mount this operator plate. It goes on the door just like this. First I need to find the center mark of the door up here. So we've got a 10-foot door, 5 foot is the center. And just transfer that mark up there as well, so we'll need that after. This operator plate should come with the right screws, if I can find them, to mount it. It generally will have a notch out of the bottom in case you have a hinge at the center of the door. Whether you have a hinge there or not, it doesn't really matter. Put that end down and just put it down there as close as you can. Line the center of the bracket up with the center of the door that you just marked there. Okay, and don't strip out your screws, just snug them up. There's 5 altogether in this particular bracket. After that, we're going to determine the bracket on the wall where the arm of the door opener is going to attach to, and get it mounted. Okay, so I've got that. I'm just going to change the ladders here. So what we need to determine first here, now this is a general overview of garage door opener installations, so yours could be slightly different. Double check in your instructions. For this particular one, we're trying to determine the height of this header bracket that's going to go up here. One thing we need is a center line continued up here. So we already measured it off the door. Just need to get it up there as well. And then I also need to determine for this opener the highest point of travel of the top of this door when it's opening. So I'm just going to pull the door open by hand, kind of determine by eye when it gets to the point that this top edge of the door is as high as it's ever going to get when it's opening. Once I do that, just figure out a level mark over to the wall, which is right here. And we want to be 2 inches above that. So from that mark, I'm going to go up 2 inches right to there. Okay, so that's the bottom of my bracket. So what I'll do is I'll pre-drill a couple holes. We've got solid blocking there. You need to have solid blocking for this to go into. Usually, come on, what's going on? Usually if you've got a garage door already mounted here, garage door mounted, there's going to be a block up here already for this spring assembly. Your opener, most openers, they say you can mount it, I believe it's up to about 12 inches off center of the door. So if this bracket happens to be right in the way, you could mount your opener off one way or the other. I like to put it in the middle if I can, absolutely. Just that way it's pulling nicely on the door. It's not going to cause any troubles later down the road. So I'm going to hold this bracket on that line I determined. And I'm going to pre-drill a couple spots here for these bolts. Some leg bolts that'll go in here. Okay, so I've got that. Get my impactor, and we'll mount that bracket up there. There's an arrow usually that points up on that bracket. Okay, we've got that in. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is assemble the rail system for the opener. So we're just going to have to reposition the camera a little bit to do that. Okay, so we've taken our extension piece here out of that package. And like I said before, the only thing about it is it's longer than the original. So it's really not going to change the steps as far as doing all this. This one piece of all these pipes has a bigger hole in the end, so just look at the instructions, make sure you're getting it the right direction. All these pieces just simply snap in. You can see there's one piece, there's the next piece. I set one to the side, so yeah, we still need this piece, and they just simply fit together like that and clip together. There's no bolts or anything holding it, kind of a friction fit. Then at this very end, there's a bracket that would attach this all to the opener. It slips in there as well. When I say slip, I mean fits tightly. And then we can attach it to the actual motor housing. So we'll take those out. It's just two little bolts. We'll just get them lined up here. Just have to tilt I'm just kind of working on a little platform here. Just have to kind of tilt that up so it sits nice. Don't strip these out, just be nice and gentle. Okay, so our rail is now mounted to the motor housing. This is a half-horse motor. For most single wide doors, that's going to be more than enough motor to lift it. If you're going into a bigger door, you might have to go to a 3/4 horse. Now, we can start assembling some of the other pieces onto this track. So this is the mechanism that actually slides back and forth that the belt's attached to and the door is attached to. It's going to slide on here, just like so. Usually helps if we stick a screwdriver down here so it isn't sliding all over the place. Once we get lifting it up, sometimes it wants to take off on us. So that's in the right direction. Now we need the belt. So this is our extended belt for this oversized door. And just determining which end is which. This end with the kind of a little hook on it is the end we want to go through this hole to start with. So there's kind of a large slot down here. We just need to get the belt started through there like that. Then we've got a bolt and a pulley, or a pulley that a bolt holds in, I should say. And that's going to slide inside there. Fits right in this slot. And then there's a special bolt that drops down in there and a lock nut, or a washer and a nut, a locking washer and a nut that go on there. Oh, I grabbed the wrong size nut. I'm just going to do everything just finger tight for now. We'll go around and tighten things up after. Okay, so I've got that on there. Got the grooves of the belt towards the inside, and this end hooks onto that little carriage there. Okay. Now, we are going to bring, where's that doohickey? Here it is. Something else we need in there is this. There's a bolt here, a stud, that comes right into the very last hole on this track. And really all it is a stopper, so that carriage can't go too far. If something was to malfunction, it's going to hit that and stop. So we throw that in there. Again, I'm doing everything finger tight right now until we kind of get it all together. Okay, now I'm just grabbed a handful of the other miscellaneous things we're going to need. We need to bring the belt up and around the actual drive sprocket on the motor. So just making sure the belt isn't twisted. I'm going to just guide it around here. Come on. Guide it around, keeping it kind of a bit of tension on it. Get it into the sprockets on that little pulley there that's already mounted on the motor. And we'll just drop it there for a second. This particular one, this is the tightening mechanism for the belt itself. Hope that glare coming through the window isn't too bad right there, is it? Not bad? Okay. And it basically attaches via this chain link, just like a bicycle chain link, to the end of the belt. And then we pop it through a hole over here on on this carriage. And that makes our, just make sure we're not twisted, that just makes our final connection, so we've got a continuous belt there. We'll just get this chain link hooked together. Now your opener could have a little different system, or if it's a chain drive, it's still gonna be kind of similar. It just might be a little simpler hookup there. Okay, so I've got my threaded rod here hooked to the end of the belt, and now it goes through this hole right here that's in that little carriage dealie. Holy, how come it's so tight? They got a little extra paint on this one. There we go. Oh, I forgot. One side of that bolt has a flat edge on it. That's why it wouldn't go through. I had to have that lined up. Oh, that might mean that I have my belt twisted though. Yes, it does. So I guess that's one thing to watch out for. So I'll just pop this link off here quick and turn this bolt around. Okay, so we go like that. That's better. So now I can fit that through that hole, thread this spring-loaded kind of mechanism on here. Make sure you got it going the right direction. There's kind of a silver washer at one end, and you want it facing to the motor end. Okay, and then it says just to basically finger tighten that, like so. And I need a wrench for that. Now it's kind of preloaded from the factory. We just have to spring it or release it. So I've got to put a wrench on this little nut end on there. I know you can't really see what I'm doing here, but once you have yours, you'll see exactly what I'm doing. We have to give it a quarter turn. It releases that safety, and it tensions the spring, which tensions the belt. Okay, like I said, your system could be a little different, so just check with your owner's manual. Okay, so we've got that all on there. So now we've got our belt already on the opener. Not too difficult. I've pulled out my screwdriver, And there's a little cap that goes up top here, and it just covers this pulley. So for whatever reason, if you're up there servicing it or something, you don't get your finger caught in it. It's just held on with a couple screws. Okay, so it just sits right up on top there. Just tighten those down and then that part's done. Okay, so we've got that done. Now what we're actually going to do is rotate that far end there that goes towards above the door. We're going to put it up and get it in that bracket. And from there then we can lift up this end of the motor housing and get it suspended where we need it. So up top there, it's just going to be a little kind of a clevis pin and a little loop that goes into that hole on there, and that's all that holds that up there. So I'm going to get a ladder over there. Hopefully I can do this by myself. It's usually easier to have somebody else kind of holding this up there as you get it positioned. But I'm going to have to try to make do on my own. If I put it up on this crate, it might help. Of course, everything's got to be right on the edge of this. Okay, that'll work. Okay, so I'm going to go up there, pop this pin in, and that'll hold this all up there. With any luck at all. Okay, so it just pops right through. Throw this little loop through there so it can't come out. Like that. And we've got that all there. Now if I take my ladder and this opener, basically get the ladder swung around into place, I can set the opener right up on top of it. Okay, I'm just kind of getting it up there so it's close so I can get a hold of it. Now the other thing I'm trying to do is get it swung out so it's perpendicular to the wall. I'm just going to hang on to it here so I don't lose it. There, something like that. Just get it close at least for now, so when I get up there, it's in the right vicinity. Because obviously it can't stay down this low. Now to do this, what I'm going to do is actually open the overhead door manually, and then the opener, I'll use a block of wood actually, and the opener will sit on that block of wood, and it'll create a space above the door, top of the door, and the rail, which gets you close to what you need for your height. And after that, then I usually level it up so it looks right. You can't have too much space though. You have to be careful that you don't get too much height on that opener. They recommend staying within about 2 inches of the door. Usually I'm about 4 inches and it seems to work, but I don't think I'd want to go too much more than that, or it might cause some trouble afterwards. Something else I'm going to do is I'm going to trip this little safety clip here, if I can get a hold of it, just to release this little runner. Otherwise the door will hit it when I lift it up there. Okay, so you know what I should do is maybe suspend that opener, because I can see it's already going to be a little too low because of the elevation we have here. So maybe just temporarily I'll just hold that opener right up higher so I know that it won't hit the door until I can get the door open. So there's a series of different holes here, kind of brackets built in, and I should be able to utilize those. Put my strap in those holes, hang it from the blocking that I've already got in place that we're going to use anyways to hold that opener up. That'll work better. It'll hold it right up out of the way. Now I can open the door easily. Like so. I might not even need my block of wood now that I've got that strap holding it up. We're going to check and see how level that track is. It isn't really necessary that the track is level, it just looks better to me if you can put it in level as opposed to it hanging down looking all goofy. Actually, probably if it came up 1/4 of an inch it would be level, so we're really close right where we are. I'm just going to get a couple things prepared and then we'll come back. So I've got my bits and pieces prepared. Your opener will generally come with some different lengths of these right angle pieces of metal with all the different holes in them for mounting and hanging and everything. So I had to just cut this one in half. Basically what I want to do is I want to, by eyeball, line this rail up with that bracket that we mounted on the center of the door. I want to basically just line the two up. And then I know that the opener is in the center. I know it's hanging kind of cockeyed right now, but we'll get that all leveled up. But we're lined up nicely with center, so I'm happy with that. We're going to mount these brackets onto the opener that we just finished cutting. So I'm just going to pick a set of holes. Of course, the strap is in the hole I want to use. Make sure that didn't move. Should be good there. So like I said, it's got this group of holes there, so we're going to pick one that's close to our piece of strapping that we nailed in for blocking when we were preparing for this project. And I think I mentioned before, if you have a finished ceiling, you might just have another piece of this bracket across the ceiling. Make sure it's bolted up into the joist or the ceiling rafters though, not just into the drywall or whatever. And then you can run these up to it. So I'm just going to get one going here on each side. And I kind of want these to go out a little bit on an angle, just to give it a little bit of extra support that direction. So I'm just, again, double checking that we're in line with the door where we wanted it to be. And I'll throw in a leg bolt here. Okay, so I've got that one hanging. I'm going to do the same thing on this side, and when I'm getting that side adjusted, I'm trying to get the opener nice and straight this way. Okay, so we've got that hanging there. We can actually take this temporary strap I had on there, that worked well, off of there. I'm going to tighten up these bolts. Okay, so I've got that all bolted up there. You don't want to plug it in yet. We're going to wait till we have all the sensors and buttons and everything wired in, so don't plug it in. I'm also going to, they recommend when you have the extra extension in the rail because of the oversized door, to put in an angle piece of bracing in here as well. So we're going to put one bolt through there, over here on this side, and then we're going to put another leg bolt through the wood up there. So I'll just pop that in here. Okay, I'll just move my ladder around to the other side, grab a leg bolt, and put that in. So now we need to mount a bracket to the door, and there'll be an arm that comes off here and hooks up onto there. That's what actually pulls the door up. That bracket for this one here, they recommend being 4 inches. And there is a directional arrow on this bracket as well. We want it centered in the door. I'm going to pre-drill a hole through this heavier plate. Just going to get a mark for both of them. Should probably have my safety glasses on. Okay, we got that. Now we can mount this bracket. It comes with just 2 small bolts or screws. Thread right into that. Okay, so that bracket's on there. I'm going to go around before I forget and tighten up these original bolts that we did. And then after that point, we're going to put on this setup here, and then we're going to wire in all the sensors. I've actually pre-ran most of those. We just have to basically mount them up and finish the wiring off, so that'll save us a little bit of shooting time. But anyways, I'm going to just quickly tighten up some of these bolts, and then we'll come back and finish this. Okay, so while we're up here, we're going to do a few different things, but first of all, I'm going to mount this bracket here. Like so. And this one, where's my pin? There it is. This one goes in here. Like that. And then just bring this, remember we released this part from the actual fixed piece that's hooked to the belt. Just bring it in close to that thing. Don't latch it right in, because you'll need to be able to move it back and forth a little bit. Bring it in relatively close. And then what you're trying to do is, there's a series of holes here and a series of holes in this. You want to line up 2 holes, preferably these 2 on each extreme end of this bracket, with 2 in that other this other piece here. So the reason I said not to lock that in is you usually have to just move that out a little bit to make some of them line up. And we'll get 2 bolts in there. If the end of this piece happened to be sticking way down here, you should cut that off, because it might curl around and dent the door. So if I know in some cases it will stick past there, but in this case it isn't, so we don't need to worry about it. But if yours is, just cut that off, that piece of metal off, so it's not sticking past that elbow. Okay, and we can tighten those right up. Like that. Okay, so that's all on there. While I'm up here, there'll be a piece of rope and a handle for the emergency release. What this does, when this rope is pulled and this piece here is in a vertical position, it allows that to slide back and forth like you've seen before. So if for some reason your power's out or the opener malfunctions, you'll be able to pull that and actually still get your car out or get yourself out of the garage or whatever the case may be. So it's emergency release. Well, actually this rope's probably too short. So they send you usually quite a good long length of rope. So tie it, loop it through there and tie it off in a knot or whatever, however you want to tie it. So it's tight. Release this down. Okay, so we got that. Now with this emergency release, you're very seldom ever going to have to use it, but you need to be able to reach it if you can. So slide the handle here onto the rope like that, and determine, depending how high you can reach, and then just bring it down a little bit so that you can reach it if you have to. I'm just going to look over to the other door where I kind of had that one. I had it up about there. I'm just going to push that handle out of the way and tie another knot here. And then that handle can't come off of there. It just comes down to there, and then just cut that excess rope off. So it's still up out of the way, but yet you can get a hold of it if you had to. Okay, so we got that on there. Okay, so now we are down to mounting some of the electrical components, 2 of which I don't think you can even buy a door opener anymore that doesn't have these obstruction sensors. You can see them here on the other door, right here and over on the other side. Basically it sends a beam of light between the 2 of them, and if that beam of light is broken at all, it will return the garage door or stop it. so that you don't have an issue with you know, something getting crushed or a kid getting hurt or anything like that. So the key to these is getting them at the same height so they line up. And with this manufacturer, they just have a bracket. It's kind of a multi-purpose bracket. So this bracket can either be screwed to the wall or it can be snapped onto the tracks here. And I think on this door, it's funny, the other door fit around it, but this one doesn't. So I'm just going to have to snap this one on up higher. Wonder why that is. The problem I'm having here is the bracket for the door hardware is actually in the way. Oh, this is a way wider bracket. That's why. They must just change the style of bracket. So I'm going to have to put it up higher. So we'll just put it up. I think they recommend not more than 12 inches if I remember right. And this bracket just basically clips on here. It's kind of tight fit. So we're going to put our bracket right there. We'll measure up. So our sensor is going to be just like 12 1/8 inch off the ground, which I can't go any lower than that. So that's what it's going to have to be. So we'll snap this one over on this side as well. Takes a little bit of a push to get it on there. Okay, we should be pretty close there. Okay, so we've got that bracket on there, right snapped on the track. Now, like I said before, we already ran these sensors. Basically, you're going to have a little plastic box with an eye on the end of it, and it's got a coil of wire on it. And I ran the wire up in the wall up into the roof. Okay, coming over to here, about to the middle where the opener is, and then I went to the opener. Same thing on that side. It comes with little staples and everything, don't put them too tight. I ran that wire up into the ceiling, across the rafter and over to the opener. So I already did that off camera, so it really doesn't need much explanation, I don't think, once you see it. So this will just fit into your bracket. It's a little bolt and a wing nut. Yours could be different again, but put that there. And same thing on this side. Now these sensors do have a light usually on them, on each one. And generally speaking, if there's a problem and your door isn't working, it's usually because these are out of alignment. They've gotten bumped or whatever. One of those lights, usually you'll see it flashing, and that'll mean you have a misalignment generally. Just read your book. It could troubleshoot a few different things, but once we have the opener plugged in and powered up, those lights on this one should be glowing steadily. One's green, one's orange, I think. If they're not, if one of them's flashing, I just need to line them up better. Okay, so we got that. And there's no wiring to do down at this end. They come pre-wired right into that sensor. So those wires are up and over there. One other thing I'm going to do while I'm down here is we've got the wall button that we're going to place over here beside the other one. I've ran the wire already for it too. It's just this real thin wee little wire like that. So I'm just going to mount this to the wall. And once I wire it up, I guess, obviously. And then I can go up top and make all my electrical or low voltage wiring connections up there. I just have to pop this button out of this in order to mount it. And also I want to do the wiring connections on the back of it. So this is all low voltage, this part of it. I'm just going to take the wire and split them apart here a little bit. Usually you can just, once you get it started, it'll just tear apart. There's going to be a wire that's probably all one solid color, like on the outside here, the color sheeting. And the other one's going to have a stripe, or it might even be black or whatever. So you're going to have basically a positive and a neutral. You want to strip off about a 1/2 inch of that plastic coating so it's exposed like that. And on the back of this button, whatever style you're going to have, there's going to be a couple of screws or places to plug those wires into. This one tells me exactly which wire goes where. They've got it labeled as red and white. So I'm going to put a little curl on this wire so it goes around that screw, if I can get it to bend. This one has the red stripe. I'm going to put it on the screw labeled red. Tighten that up. Just be careful when you're back in there tightening these, because you're usually mounting it right on the circuit board, so try not to slip off and possibly damage the circuit board. Okay, this one's our white wire. Just got to get it around the screw. If you notice when I'm putting that on the screw, to tighten that screw up, I'm going to turn it clockwise. And you'll notice, if I can get it off there, I've got the curve of the wire wrapping around clockwise as well. So when I tighten the screw, it'll tend to want to wrap that wire around even tighter as opposed to trying to unwind it right off the stud. Okay, so don't over tighten that too much. It's definitely got to be snug though, but just don't snap your circuit board. Okay, there'll generally be some little notches on the sides wherever you want your wire to come out of. In this case, we're coming out the top. The bottom I mounted that screw already before. It's going to pop in there and slip on, and then we'll fix it in place with a screw right through there. So I'm just kind of eyeballing it up, making sure it looks straight with the other one. Make sure that wire isn't going to get pinched in behind there. And I will put this screw in and snap the button cover back on. Sorry, I've got to come over here to use my right hand to do this. I'm kind of holding the screwdriver to protect that so it doesn't slip off. In fact, I'm going to switch to the drill here just to speed it up a little bit. Okay, so we've got that attached there solidly. And this button cover just snaps back on if I can get it there with one hand. Okay, just like that. Okay, so that takes care of the button. Again, I've got the wire all stapled and going up and up into the attic space by the opener. So now I can go up top, make those connections, and then we're just about ready to give it a whirl and see how it works. Okay, so I've just gone ahead and pre-stripped all these wires here. Actually got them a little too long. So this one here was the push button, and there's no screw up here to connect to. What you're actually doing is they're kind of a push-in connection. So I'm just going to get the wire started, and then you have to push this little tab underneath them so that they actually go in, kind of like a speaker wire, if you've ever done a speaker. Now the other ones, these are the sensors. So what I want to do, I stripped all of them. I want to hook the blacks to black. So again, these wires will be identified. One will be one solid color and one will usually have a stripe on it. So just pair them up the way they are. And like I mentioned before, if these sensors aren't working, your opener is not going to work. This is usually the main cause of a problem of your opener not wanting to operate. So you want to just make sure you got all this right. Okay, so I just twisted them together and they're going to work just the same. We've got a colored push button and a white push button there, so we'll put the white one in. Probably a flat screwdriver would be a better tool for this. I'm not really using the blade, just the guard on the knife. That one didn't go in. And then just give a little tug, make sure they're in there. Looks like those are all in. You're going to have some excess wire. I generally don't cut it off, just leave it up here in case you ever have to do anything with it. There's a little spot here you can kind of hook them in. Holds them back out of the way of the light cover. And just gonna put that up out of the way. Okay, so then usually you would throw a light bulb in there. This one has a bulb on each side, but I just don't have any on me right now. Snap that. That's the issue here. These are probably this brand here that I'm using is probably one of the more common brands in my area that you're going to see. There's 2 or 3 that pretty much have the whole market, I would say. Okay, so we've got our sensors all hooked up. We've got our button hooked up. We're going to be okay to plug the opener in to our plug-in that we have there. And I just unwrapped this, but it looks like I can probably wrap it back up. Just kind of tucking this cord up here so it's not hanging down in the way, and we don't want it in the way of the belt over here either where it's rubbing on it or something. So this, you're probably going to see another little wire hanging out of the bottom or somewhere out of the unit. This is the antenna for, you know, your door opener remotes for in your vehicle and that sort of thing. Okay, so nothing to be concerned about that. Don't strip it off or anything, just leave it where it is. We should be good to cycle the opener, so let's give it a try. Okay, so we've come down from the ladder, obviously. I'm just double checking now that we've plugged it in. I'm looking at my lights on the sensors there. I've got solid colors. I've got a green and a yellow, so they should be operating correctly. So with any luck at all, by a push of a button, this should operate. Now, when I push the button, it's not going to pull the door up right now because we don't have this hooked. Okay, one thing I'm going to do is trip this back to the normal operating position, but it's still not locked into position, into the actual movement. So what's going to happen is that belt's going to move a little bit before it actually engages into this mechanism up there. So the door probably won't move the first second or so. Okay, so I'm going to give it a push and we'll see what happens. There. It locked in quite quickly actually that time. There's some other adjustments we're likely going to have to do to the door as far as how high it opens or doesn't close all the way, or the force and that sort of thing. So you can see here it didn't open all the way. There's probably still a foot that it has to go, and there's adjustment for that on the sides of the opener. I believe it's on this side for that. So that's the first thing we're going to adjust. Just grabbing a screwdriver. So it's going to take just a little bit of monkeying around here to get your new door opener operating correctly. I'm not sure, does the camera want to come up there? Okay, we're going to move the camera up top. Okay, so on your opener on one side or somewhere on the housing up here, you should find a couple screws for adjusting the travel, which is the up and down movement. On this opener, one full revolution of the little screw that's back in there equals 2 inches of movement along the track. They don't recommend doing any more than a couple revolutions at a time though, just to be on the safe side. I know we've got to go about 10 inches or so, but I'm going to do 2 revolutions and then we'll check from there how much more we have to go. So I've got to cycle the door all the way through the whole movement again, so we'll also get a chance to see how it's doing when it goes down. There's a chance that it'll stop before it hits the floor. There's even a better chance that it'll hit the floor and start coming back up because it's too tight. So we'll just see what happens. You can see that opener's nice and quiet. I'm sitting right beside it here and you don't get a lot of rattling or noise out of it. So it's almost to the floor. Actually, our down travel's pretty darn good. So we'll come back up and see where we are with our up. Shouldn't hear a bunch of racket or anything. Everything's operating, rolling nice and smoothly. We just installed this door as well. You can watch our video on that. So it's a brand new door as well. So you can see we still have some room to go. I know just from experience that when I did the other one, this bracket here ends up 2 or 3 inches from that bolt. So I know I've got a fair little ways to go yet. So we'll give it another couple turns and we'll cycle it through again. I like to do full cycles and then you know you've tested it a few times. Yeah, that down travel is really nice. Sometimes it'll want to go too far, and what happens is it actually returns itself and starts coming up again because it's putting too much pressure. So we're getting real close. I'm just going to go see how we are at the opening. I think we still have to go up a little bit. Yeah, we got a little bit more room there, so I'm going to do one more turn and that'll probably do it. Okay, try her once more here. Yeah, the chain drive openers are definitely just a little bit more rattly. Okay, and up we come. Perfect. That looks really good. You can see I don't have my weather strip on this opening yet, so the metal flashing is hanging down a bit. But there's the top of the opening. The door is right up as far as basically as you'd ever need it to be. So we're okay that way. Now what I need to check now is the, I believe they call it the force. So this opener senses how much force it's taking to close itself or open itself. So if there's an obstruction or the door has come off its mounting hardware and is binding real bad, it'll shut itself down so it doesn't cause problems or burn out the motor. But you need to test that, and the way to do that is I'm going to let the door come down. I'm just going to put my arm underneath here. I don't want to step in the sensor beam. I'm just going to put my arm down and try to just resist it slightly, and it should go back up. If it doesn't, we can adjust that as well. When I get it going up, I'm just going to grab on the bottom of the door and tug down a little bit. If it gets enough resistance, it should shut itself off. So let's just see what it does to see whether we need to adjust that or not. Why is that? Am I standing in the beam or what? Huh, that's really odd. Maybe I've got it up just a little bit too high now. I'm going to turn that force back a little bit. It's really strange. Just going to turn that back half a turn. Let's see if we can get this to correct itself. What is the difficulty? So it must be finding a little bit of force, a little bit too much force somewhere. I don't know why. Okay, I'm going to pull the emergency release to let the door down, and then I can run it through a cycle and just eliminate the fact of a faulty opener. So you're going to get a chance to see me use the emergency release. So if I pull this down, it unlocks it from that carriage thing up there. Now if I can reach the door, I need something. So I can get a hold of it, and I can manually put it down. And we'll just run the opener through a cycle here. Oh, I need to reset this. Okay, so now the carriage should come down. Oops, pushed the wrong button. Got a little bit of air in anyways. So this should re-engage here. We'll open and close it. It may have just been that I had it opening a little too far. Okay, so that closed. Let's just see what happens when we get it all the way up and then try to close it again. Because it didn't start doing that until after that final adjustment there, so I would suspect. I'm just going to turn it right back the one turn to see where we are. Oops, now I Now I'm pushing all kinds of buttons. I got doors going up and down here all over the building. One cable doesn't look right. No, that's right. Okay, I'm just going to, we're going to cut the camera and I'll figure this out and we'll come back and let you know what we figured out. Okay, I think we figured out the problem. I think the problem is that the downward force is actually not hard enough. So it was getting just a slight bit of resistance because of where it was on the track when it was all the way open. But you can see when I push this button to let it down, I hardly have to almost even touch the door and it wants to stop and return. So then I'll adjust that force down. So see, it's not taking a whole lot to, I just don't want it to go all the way up. I'm going to adjust, those buttons are on the other side. They're really the same thing as what you just watched me do from that side. But obviously the force to close needs to be just a little bit higher. Oh, it's turned right to the bottom. That would probably do it. So let's just run it through a cycle here and see if that does it. So we'll get it all the way open here. Yeah, that's all it took. So it was just that downward force that was just a little not strong enough. So now we'll just check the upward force. So if I grab on the door, it even could probably be a little more force upwards. We'll see what the down force is like now. Yeah, it takes definitely a little more. I'm just going to adjust both of those just a little stronger, and then we should be good. There's kind of a kg increment thing on this dial for these ones, and they were put right at 1. They were as low as they could go. So we'll just do that, just like that, and run it through a cycle here, and I think we'll be all right. If when you're doing all this, you're putting the door up and down quite a bit, pretty steadily, for however long it takes you to do this, and it quits operating, what you might have done is just overheated the motor a little bit. So generally, if you just let it cool down, it'll start operating again, but it's just because you're putting it up and down so many times with not much rest in between, it sometimes can overheat them. So we go down nice, see what we do coming up. I think we pretty much got her cased here now. Because it really couldn't operate much smoother than that. So I think I'm going to just adjust the upward movement again now that we got the force thing figured out. Because it is not quite opening as much as it really should. And we'll just try it here one more time. I know I'm boring you, putting the door up and down, up and down, up and down, but this is the process you're going to have to go through. Sometimes it works the first couple times you do it, sometimes it takes a bit of fiddling. Okay. So we'll come all the way up and put it down again, and if everything works good, we'll do our wrap-up. There we go, we're good. Good, that was the only issue. Okay, I guess one other thing that I'll touch on, a lot of these openers now, like this opener here, you can actually operate, you can use this in a few different ways. You can use it to operate a single opener, another 2 or 3 openers. You could use it to operate the lights on and off, that sort of thing. We're using it here. We've got 3 doors in this one building, and every one of these remotes is going to be able to open each door. So in order to do that, we have to program it. Now on a lot of these openers, there's a button on there, and it says "Learn" right up on the side of the motor. And your book will explain how to do it, but most of them, you push the "Learn" button, and then within 30 seconds, push the button on the controller that you want to operate that opener, and it'll be as easy as that. It'll be programmed. Also, some of them on the outside, I don't have one with me. There'll be a punch pad, a keypad for the outside that will remotely open from the exterior, the garage, using a code, and they program pretty much the same way. So get your openers all programmed up, or program it into your vehicle, and you should be not having to get out of your vehicle to open that garage to get in and out anymore. So I think that's pretty much all I can say. I think we've covered everything. I'm not sure how long this video is. We don't tend to have short videos, so I hope you were able to stay awake long enough to watch the whole thing and see what we ended up finishing up like. You can go to our YouTube channel and check out all our videos. While you're there, just hit the subscribe button. And by subscribing, it doesn't cost you anything. We don't hassle you or nothing like that, but you will get a notification every time we post a new video. So if you enjoy watching what we do, you can subscribe and be notified every time. You can also go to our website at house-improvements.com. You can see on the bottom of the screen there. Just go there. From there, you'll find some articles and different things that we have, as well as our forum that we have going there. It's been up and going for quite a while now. There's lots of information on it. If you have any comments or any questions about what you've seen me do here today, or even just a question about anything to do with a DIY question, renovating your home, just post it up on there, and by doing that, I'll be sure to get back to you and give you an answer as long as I can. It's a little quicker and easier than using the comments here. Okay, so thanks for watching, and please go and check out all our videos.